Hey guys, welcome to another album review. Today I'm reviewing Sepultura's new record, Machine Messiah. Alright, so Sepultura is a thrash and death metal band that formed back in 1984 in Brazil. It is interesting to notice that the original band members that formed the band back in 1984 are actually not present during the latest release, during this album. The lineup has completely changed. There's new people, and throughout their whole discography there's been a continuous shift of people who have been playing in the band. So every single record they've been putting out have a distinct sound, but at the same time they've always kept themselves within the realms of thrash, death metal, and even groove metal. Anyways, let's just jump a little bit deeper into the actual album here, okay? So Machine Messiah is an album with 12 different tracks. It takes in on a total of 50 minutes. The first track is also called Machine Messiah, and it starts off with these very clean vocals. It has a very clean and nice atmosphere that eventually becomes more disruptive, and the vocals as well as the instruments become a lot more heavier with these roaring screams, as Sepultura are famous for. Near the start of the song, there's this epic guitar solo that is kind of highlighting the overarching melody that comes later on in the song. In general, I really think this was a great opening track, but the thing is that if you create an amazing opening track, there's a lot of things that you have to live up to, which unfortunately this album falls very short of. The second song, I Am the Enemy, is a very punchy, intensive, and fast song, which is a big contrast compared to the previous song. This song is much faster. It is a whole different level when it comes to the heaviness. The only things that stood out to me in this song were the drums during the pre-chorus. I just love those. Other than that, I feel like this song was just another thrash metal song, you know? I would give this song a 5 out of 10. The third track is called Phantom Self, and when I listened to the song the first time, I just had to laugh, because in the intro of this song, you hear this salsa-inspired rhythm, these salsa instruments going on, salsa percussion, which is, again, a completely different song structure, a sonic sound compared to the two earlier tracks. Again, as I've told you in the start of this video, this album is a mixed bag. You get so much. You get salsa, you get death metal. Although this salsa intro, this salsa percussion is quite cool, it quickly breaks into a more typical thrash metal riff. I feel like the intro and the verse are very strong in terms of the catchiness and in terms of just the craftsmanship of the melody. That is very good here. I don't know what to feel about the pre-chorus and the chorus. They, compared to the verses, sound a bit more monotone, I feel. But in general, this was a great track. This was a grower to me. I had to listen to it several times before it actually started to hit me. Oh man, this is a good song, you know? So yeah, I would give this song an 8 out of 10. The fourth song is called Alethea, and it starts out with this very technical and dominant drum part, which is then followed with this sepulchral and harsh guitar riff. After that, the song falls into this pit of a progressive verse. I definitely love the two-sided, more technical drum patterns during the intro and the break of the song. Very technical, very progressive, and I love it. It's like the drums are providing a skeletal rhythm for the guitars, but then kind of ebbing off and following its own flow. The overall mood of this song is very dark. It goes from something very subtle and evolves and kind of erupts into something just explosive and raw. This is another good song on the album. I would give it a 7 out of 10. The fifth track on this album is called Iceberg Dances, and it falls right into this very fast and thrilling guitar riff. What I really started to realize while listening to this song was the fact that they had become a lot more technical over the years, or at least in comparison to Roots, you know, which is a completely different record. On this record right here, some of the songs are more technical, they're more progressive, so they've kind of moved slightly away from that death metal, thrash metal sound, and they're kind of ebbing into this progressive metal sound, which is awesome. I don't know with you guys, but I love prog metal, so yeah, I love the fact that they're experimenting with this. The Spanish acoustic guitar part at the end of Iceberg Dances is just another example of their way of trying out new things. I just love that. It's not the best track, to be honest, it's kind of boring, but it's fun and cool to see that these artists are at least trying out something new and experimenting with stuff. That is something I find a little value in itself. Overall, I feel like this instrumental track, this fifth track, was not very cohesive. To be honest, I feel like there's a lot of different sections, a lot of different parts. Some of them are just randomly put together, it seems like. So yeah, I would give this song a 4 out of 10. The sixth track, called Sworn Oath, is a very apocalyptic and gloomy track. At least it starts out in that way. It then transcends into this very fast-pacing riff and synth passage. And then comes the first verse, which has a lot more of a prominent and catchy riff to it. The chorus, I don't know, I find it kind of weird, kind of weak. The mood of the song goes from brutal to gloomy and then to lofty. It didn't sound good, it just sounded weird, and yeah, not cohesive at all. It feels like they tried to make it overly epic and lofty with all of these horns and violins and this orchestra in a way. It's as if the band wanted this song to stand out, they wanted this song to be epic and one of their big songs of the record, but by doing that, by forcing that intention, it almost seemed like they just created a Frankenstein monster of a song. You know? A weird way of putting it, but yeah, that is what I feel. I would give it a 3 out of 10. Track number 7, Resistant Parasites, hands you the verse right away. There's no build-up, there's no intro like in many of the other songs. Again, just like with the previous song, Sworn Oath, they try to put in these orchestral themes, these orchestral instruments to make the song more epic, but it falls quite short because they don't fit into the overall mood of the song. It doesn't sound coherent at all. I was literally listening to this song, and 2 minutes in I was hoping, oh dear god, I hope it ends now, because if it was 2 minutes long, you know, it would be fine. But it's freaking 5 minutes long. They're just dragging this out to the limit. I'd give it a 3 out of 10. Track number 8 is called Silent Violence, and it is basically a very hard-hitting, pure thrash metal song. You hear both the verse and the chorus within the first minute, so this song is kind of progressing in a very, very rapid way. Before you know it, you're listening to a guitar solo, and throughout this whole album, I think there's probably like 13 or 14 guitar solos. In some of the songs, there are just squeezed into guitar solos. It's kind of awkward. Sometimes their guitar solos are good, but in general, I feel like they're just standard, and it's the same with the solo in Silent Violence as well. Around 1 minute and 40 seconds into the song, the whole mood of the song kind of changes into a more slower and silent one. The vocals also change into something cleaner. It sounds like the vocals have been bathed in this effect that makes the vocalist sound like he's underwater or something. Again, this track was not inspiring, it was not that cohesive at all. I would give this a 4 out of 10. Track number 9 is a very dynamic song. It's called Vandals Nest. It starts out with this super fast guitar riff and drums, and then the track phases into this more melody-oriented and slow-paced passage, which is quite interesting. The song is under 3 minutes long, and they actually managed to squeeze in another solo here as well. that is not a surprise. There's basically a solo in each and every single one of the songs on this album. But this solo was good. It was quite an interesting song. It wasn't that long. They managed to put in a lot of interesting segments here. It actually sounds cohesive. It sounds like the band has put a lot of thought into how they were going to segment and glue all the different pieces together with this song, which is kind of a contrast to some of their other tracks. So yeah, I would give this song a 7 out of 10. Cybergod is the 10th track on this record, and it starts out with these very gravelly vocals, which are accompanied with some very beatsy guitar riffs, I would say. This eventually cuts into some more moody, atmospheric, and just longer sounds. There's a mix of clean and screaming vocals, and it's the same with all of the instruments in general. They all shift back and forth between these very heavy and these less heavy parts. After listening to this track a few times, it almost feels like the song is kind of jumping back and forth. And another little observation from my point, this is actually the only track on the whole record which is fading out while the instruments are still playing. Anyways, in general, I didn't feel like this track was that interesting. It wasn't memorable. There wasn't really anything there that I could grasp and take with me when I left the album. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. The 11th track is called Chosen Skin, and it starts out with this very mesmerizing and fast-pacing guitar riff. At this point, I was growing really tired of the album as I was writing, so I don't know, I didn't really want to write anything more about it. You know, the album in general. This song was just not outstanding. It had nothing that appealed to my ears at all. After listening to this whole record for the first time, when I arrived at this 11th song, the Chosen Skin song, I quickly realized that Sepultura was very confined, very constricted on this record. It almost sounded like they just put songs in there to have songs there at all, you know. They had some good material, there are good songs on this album, but really there are a lot of just mediocre shit that we could go without. I would rather have them create an amazing and solid EP instead of an LP like this, because this is just not that good. It's really average. The 12th track is called Ultraseven no Uta. I hope I pronounced that right. Honestly, I don't care. It's a very, very weird song. It is a big contrast to all of the other songs on the whole album. When you listen to the song at the end of the album, all of a sudden the doomy and the harsh metal sound just vaporizes and is replaced by something much more uplifting and even humorous. I guess they're using a different singer here because the vocals are a lot more gravelly, they are a lot deeper, the singer has a deeper voice, so I'm not sure who they used, but the guy who's singing actually reminds me a lot of the Cookie Monster from Sesame Street, and that is downright a positive, nostalgic theme in itself. Although this song is so special, positive, uplifting, and even comedic, I can't help but feel like it's so out of touch with the whole album in general. It just makes the whole album a bit more incohesive, if that makes sense. 5 out of 10 for that song, and the album in general, I think I would give it a 5 out of 10, so yeah, it's a completely mediocre album. It's a mixed bag of just everything that you can imagine. There's death metal and thrash metal, of course, because it's Sepultura, but at the same time they put in these comedic songs, these try-hard epic songs with orchestral themes. They are a bit progressive, which actually is kind of good, and they also have these just too many guitar solos. They're completely milking the shit out of these guitar solos. It makes me sick. Alright, Machine Messiah by Sepultura, I would give it a 5 out of 10, and yeah, if you want to check out another album by Sepultura that is a lot better, at least that's what I think, you should check out Roots. That is just a great album in my opinion. Alright, so yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that you liked this review. If you have listened to this album, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Also, if you want to check out more videos about reviews, about artist introductions, then feel free to click the subscribe button below. And yeah, I'll put out new videos weekly, so I hope to see you later. Alright, stay tuned. Bye. And moving into prog rock, which makes the vocals sound like